The South African National Taxi Council, Santaco, will increase commuter fares countrywide by between 10 and 25% from July the 1st. But the Alexandra Taxi Association, which falls under it, and the Alexandra Randburg, Midrand, Sandton Taxi Association, which falls under the top six taxi associations, say they will determine their own increases because they were not consulted. Both associations have also threatened to go ahead with their shutdown on June the 22nd if Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula does not announce a satisfactory relief fund for the industry. We're joined now live via Skype, the National South African Taxi Council spokesperson, Thabiso Molelekwa. A very good evening to you, Mr. Molelekwa. Thanks indeed for your time. So what informs the decision, which I understand was taken yesterday, to increase taxi fares as of the 1st of July?
Good evening, Griselda, and thank you for the opportunity. In actual fact, what needs to be very clear is that every year around this time, the national leadership of Santaco does sit around and look into the issue of reviewing taxi fares countrywide. So this is not an extraordinary decision in the taxi business. It just happens to have coincided with events around COVID-19.
So COVID-19 surely must have had some impact on the taxi industry. Of course, you've not been able to operate at full capacity. That has had a financial strain on the industry. If you say that this hike, which of course does happen during this time, how much further has it exacerbated the challenges within the taxi industry?
Well, the fact that we have increased fares as part of our annual activities or decision-making process does not necessarily suggest, or should not necessarily suggest, that this really assists the taxi industry escape the kind of pressure that they find themselves in. The problems, the financial constraints that the industry is experiencing are still large, and it is for this reason that we have really impressed on the minister yesterday that there's a need for urgent intervention. Otherwise, the industry will find itself in a serious predicament. We are facing a situation where in the next 6 months, if nothing is done, a potential of about 45% taxi operators may lose their taxis.
And I will talk about that intervention very shortly. But Mr. Molelekwa, there seems to be dissent within your own ranks as Santaco. We know that one of the taxi associations that falls under your umbrella, the Alexandra Taxi Association, says it's not aware of this increase that was announced today. And in fact, it will go ahead on the 1st of July or prior to that decide on its own increase. What do you say to that?
Well, we had delayed the decision until today deliberately because we had afforded the Santaco, Gauteng and Alexandra Taxi Association to exhaust their issues around the taxi fare increase or the review of the 176% increase that they had initially effected on their fares. And the report that we got from Santaco, Gauteng was that the parties were in agreement that those prices have got to be reviewed, and then they have been given parameters within which they are able to increase those fares. And we were quite content and confident from the report that we got from Santaco Gauteng that Alexandra Taxi Association will be able to comply with that decision. We must, however, indicate that whatever that is being reported that Alexandra Taxi Association may be in dissent is still unofficial until such time it has been received formally and we are able to deal with that.
I was there. The Alexandra Taxi Association is fuming. It says that it has no idea of the decision that you took as Santaco. And in actual fact, they say they, together with other associations, which perhaps, let's get that out of the way because that taxi association does not fall under your umbrella. They're fuming. They say that they were not consulted about the increase that was announced today. In fact, they grilled me about where I got my information from. And I had to show them a tweet that had come out from your Twitter page, which was sent this morning. So you can't say there's no dissent within Santaco because the Alexandra Taxi Association is very upset with the fact that they believe that they were not consulted with what was communicated to the public today.
I am not saying that there is no dissent. I'm saying we do not know of any dissent. And until such time is registered formally with the Alexandra Taxi Association knows the procedure of raising dissent in Santaco. So until they have not until they exhausted that process, we would really take that as what is happening, what just pure rumors. So, but what is important that I need to indicate is that the Santaco Gauteng leadership has provided us with an indication that there was a meeting, which meeting was communicated to the media. I think that is day before yesterday, where the leadership of Santaco Gauteng was sitting not only with Alexandra Taxi Association, but all other associations that intended to increase their fares.
You know, Mr. Molelekwa, I'll just let that go for a moment, because if you're saying you're going to treat it as rumor, I'm telling you that I was there. But let's move on to another issue as well. How do you arrive at the 25%? I mean, many South Africans would argue that they're already struggling to stretch any deeper into their pockets as a result of the coronavirus. They've been badly hit. And notwithstanding the fact that I know that the taxi industry itself has suffered, but how do you arrive at between the percentage that you announced and 25%?
Maybe if I may ask, between 10 and 25% that you are referring to, is it the one that has been mentioned by Santaco Gauteng?
Oh, you're asking me questions?
Yeah, I just need clarity because I want to respond to your question of 25%.
Oh, that was actually announced by your stakeholder manager.
We don't have a stakeholder manager in Santaco. What we have said in the statement that we issued today is that as of on the 1st of July, there will be an increase in taxi fares. We have further said that Santaco has not determined a percentage at which provinces or taxis will be able to increase those. We have left the decision of percentages to the province to, in consultation with their structures, determine how those fares can be increased. I can make a classical example. In the Northern Cape, as well as in the Eastern Cape, the provincial leadership has decided to increase with 10%. In other provinces, it's different. So I'm saying it cannot be that whoever spoke about between 10 and 25%.
Okay, Mr. Molelekwa, I think I really need to clear this for our viewers before we wrap. Then who is Mr. Bafana Makakula within your structures as Santaco?
Mr. Bafana Makakula is the Chief Strategic Manager of Santaco.
But he communicated to SABC News. I wish we could pull up that clip here on the channel. That is your stakeholder manager. He mentioned precisely those figures here on the SABC News channel. The SABC spoke to him as soon as that tweet was sent out earlier this morning. He is your stakeholder manager. You are confirming that he is. So clearly there is miscommunication that is coming from within your own structures as the South African National Taxi Council, which is causing massive confusion amongst us as well as your commuters. You've just confirmed that the person who had clarified this for us is a stakeholder manager. Mr. Bafana Makakula is your stakeholder manager, and yet he told us between those percentages, you're saying you don't know anything about it. How do we clarify this? What exactly should we be communicating to the public? It's very confusing, Mr. Molelekwa, very.
I want to say to you, this afternoon we issued a press statement in which we explained how the taxi fares are going to be high.
Mr. Molelekwa, 1 second. Sorry, sir. 1 second. I'm really sorry to cut you off. Let's play that clip, in fact. I want you to take a listen to this.
Depending on the areas involved. Remember, we've got coastal, we've got even, and we've got uneven areas and so on.
But some associations under the Santaco umbrella are not happy. The Alexandra Taxi Association. All right, we're just going to repark it for you there, Mr. Molelekwa, and we will play for you exactly what Mr. Bafana had said to us. So what do you have to say to that? Because there seems to be miscommunication amongst your ranks that I don't even know what to communicate to your commuters.
As I was saying before, I said to you, we issued a statement today. In that statement, there were no percentages indicated. If Mr. Magagula has spoken about who is our chief strategic manager, by the way, and not stakeholder manager, if Mr. Magagula has spoken about percentages, he may have spoken to specific areas that may be, like I've indicated to you, there are provinces which have already indicated the percentages within which they are going to increase those fares. But what he cannot say, or he could not have said, was that there is a standard price or a standard percentage nationwide.
Mr. Molelekwa, he did not say that is standard. Does our team have that clip ready? We just need to find out from our team if they've got that clip ready. I'll just paraphrase. All right, we don't have that clip ready at this stage, but he did say that there would be that percentage depending on the different areas. You didn't give a percentage in your press release, and that on its own, Mr. Molelekwa, I think would be rather concerning, because the consumers themselves want to know, those who get on those taxis would want to know well ahead of that increase on the 1st of July, exactly how much more they're going to have to dig into their pockets. That would only be fair. These are your most important stakeholders. And the person who communicated this, you are confirming, works within the South African National Taxi Council. He is no stranger. You, sir, are not communicating effectively.
Look, I agree with you. This could rather be concerning. But I wouldn't agree with you that the fact that we did not mention the percentages at which these taxi fares may be high is an issue for concern. Our statement is very clear. And these provinces and structures know how to communicate increases with their relative commuters. So we've got 2 weeks at which provinces have been allowed to communicate with their regions and ultimately with their commuters. So as we speak right now, there is absolutely no reason to be concerned, because there is still time to communicate with commuters. In fact, commuters know in many areas. Let's take KZN, for example. Commuters know already as we speak that the fares will be increased. Take Eastern Cape. Commuters already know that the percentages at which these fares will be increased. So there is no concern. The fact that we have not mentioned those percentages does not make it a concern.
Perhaps not to you, Mr. Molelekwa, but perhaps to those who are getting on your taxis would want to know from what they're struggling with at the moment and the financial constraints that have already been on them as a result of the impact of the coronavirus. They would need to probably scrape some more cents in order to ensure that they have enough to get on those taxis or face the possible fate of having to walk to work. But as you say, that's not of any concern to you. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. The National South African Taxi Council spokesperson, Thabiso Molelekwa. In fact, I want us to play that clip. I hope Mr. Molelekwa will be able to listen to that on the television. In fact, I should have told him to do so. This is the upsound that we got a bit earlier on from Mr. Bafana Makakula, who gave us percentages, of which now Santaco, who does agree that Mr. Bafana Makakula does work within their office in the strategic department. This is what he had to say in terms of figures of the increase in those fares come the 1st of July. Let's take a listen.
We are expecting taxes to increase between 10 and 25% depending on the areas involved. Remember, we've got coastal, we've got even, and we've got uneven areas and so on.
All right. Do we still have you on the line, Mr. Molelekwa?
I'm here.
Did you hear that, sir?
I did.
And what do you have to say about that?
Look, I do not, and it is only fair to explain that the decision of the leadership yesterday was that Santaco will announce the fare increases, and the provincial leadership countrywide will be allowed to make the necessary percentages. Now, how Mr. Magagula measured that in terms of the area, the different areas, I do not understand. Perhaps there's a reason why he would have done that. But I want to clarify something just before we part ways, Zelda. I am not saying it is not a concern for us, if commuters, I'm saying at the moment, there is no concern for that, because our provincial structures and regional structures know how to communicate with their commuters. on their different percentages at which they will increase those fare prices, those taxi fares.
Mr. Thabiso Molelekwa, thank you very much indeed for your time. The spokesperson of the South African National Taxi Council. I think I'm more confused than I was, sir, before this interview, because you say there's no percentages that have been communicated, and you have someone within your strategic office who you agree works for Santaco saying that those increases will be between 10 and 25% from the 1st of July. Let's hope that we'll get clarity on that. And most importantly, those who will be getting on those taxis will understand a bit closer to that time exactly how much they need extra to fork out.